This is Bigfoot. He is a tall and hairy creature, with his big feet being the most famous feature. Bigfoot is very intelligent and strong, and can travel over distances quite long. They tend to be very quiet and shy. When people traipse through the forest, they have plenty of places to hide. This particular Bigfoot once met Max, when Max went on a hike to rest and relax. But this story happened after that. So let's go find Bigfoot in his habitat. It was wintertime in the woods, and Bigfoot was scouring the forest for goods, when he picked up a smell on the air. A scent that told him a stranger was there. It seemed foreign, yet he also knew it too, but he couldn't place who it belonged to. So Bigfoot followed the scent back to his den, but stopped in his tracks right there and then, for some large tracks were imprinted in the snow, both coming to and leaving Bigfoot's home. Quietly and cautiously, Bigfoot entered his lair. Sure enough, someone had slept in his bed and sat in his chair. Even his food storage had been picked through, and that was what sent Bigfoot through the roof. He roared in a rant and rave, for someone had stolen food from his cave. It was one thing to sleep uninvited in Bigfoot's nest, but to steal his food? That was no jest. Feeling grumpy, Bigfoot stormed outside and vowed to scour the entire mountainside for the thief who has stolen his goods, even if he had to comb through every part of the woods. He climbed up towards the mountain peak as the weather slowly turned bleak. After a while, Bigfoot was about to look elsewhere when he stumbled upon an abandoned animal den. This looked to be a good place for hiding food stores. However, inside he could hear low grunts and snores. So Bigfoot followed the prints into the cave dark and deep to find out about the creature that was fast asleep. Soon, Bigfoot found a creature sleeping on a makeshift bed. The beast was covered in white fur from foot to head. It was Bigfoot's cousin, the Yeti, who looked like he had eaten food aplenty, and now was taking a winter's nap. So Bigfoot woke him up with a hard slap. The Yeti woke up and roared in surprise to see his cousin right before his eyes. Bigfoot scolded the Yeti for stealing his food, and made sure he knew that Bigfoot was in a bad mood. You see, Bigfoot don't like their Yeti cousins, because they often act like curmudgeons. Yetis live where food is hard to find, and they'll steal from Bigfoot when in a bind. And while Bigfoot works all through the summer, Yetis hibernate until winter in a deep slumber. Thus Bigfoot was angry to find out his cousin was the thief, who had stolen food from Bigfoot, causing him grief. It looked like things were about to blow, for Bigfoot and Yeti were going to have a row. But Yeti begged his cousin to listen first, for he had been starving and dying of thirst. Yeti came to find Bigfoot to ask for aid, and to perhaps set up some kind of trade. He even promised to pay Bigfoot back for everything he had stolen for his winter snack. In fact, Yeti turned his promise into a vow. And breaking a vow is something neither Bigfoot nor Yeti allow. It is the highest law in cryptid society, and breaking it would brand you an outcast with notoriety. So Bigfoot was satisfied and calmed down, and decided to help his cousin from out of town. He agreed to help the Yeti learn to fend for himself, and preserve food properly to store on a shelf. All winter the two cousins worked together, and had many an adventure. Eventually, the winter season came to an end, and Yeti had to go back to his own den. He had paid his debt and promised to visit. Then Yeti disappeared into the thicket. And so, our story comes to a close, as Yeti left Bigfoot as friends rather than foes.
Unique Brick Projects unveils Darth Vader aboard the Rebel capital ship to retrieve the Death Star plans. In this video, we will show you specifically our version of Vader's rage, as seen in the movie Rogue One. First, we built the hallway floor itself, creating a 24 by 56 studded floor plan. It was stabilized by layering flat pieces together. Then we built the hallway walls. We also added computers and other electronics to add detail to the scene. And then, we kept the routine going with walls and computers until we finished the hallway. Next, we built the door frame. Added the control panel, and inserted the door. Finally, we created the ceiling by using the same pattern used earlier on the floor. And that's it for Vader's rage. But before you go, we have a little secret to reveal. This Darth Vader minifigure is a rare one indeed, because it is one of the chrome Darth Vader minifigures released by LEGO in 2009. Thanks for watching.
Good evening, and welcome to the 7 o'clock evening news. We start off this news hour with a breaking story.
The police have received some unusual reports. Apparently, Lego people are going to sleep at night, only to wake up with their hairpiece missing. Earlier today, Chief Brody gave a press conference to address the public. Let's take a look.
We believe this is the work of one individual looking for a hairpiece to cover up his own baldness. Please report any suspicious activity to your local police department and lock up your hair at night.
Chief Brody also mentioned they have a list of potential suspects, but he did not disclose the list at this time. Now we will turn to Charlie Basket for a sports update.
Thank you, Rochelle. As you know, tonight was the rivalry game between the Knights and the Eagles. It came down to the wire as the Eagles center back, Donovan, was tripped up and lost his head. This unfortunate injury gave the Knights just enough of an edge to come out on top for the rest of the game. The Knights beat the Eagles 3-2. The extent of Donovan's injuries are not yet known, but he is expected to return for the rest of the season, as long as he can keep his head on straight. That's all for tonight. Now back to you.
Thank you for the update. Next up, we have an unusual story for you about a man and a candlestick. Callie has the story.
This here is Jack. He is nimble and quick. And he always had a goal to compete in the Olympics, to jump over the candlestick. And now, after years of dreaming and practicing, he has a chance to compete for the gold medal in candlestick jumping. Tonight the teams are finishing up their practice, while the official event takes place tomorrow night, 8 p.m. local time. Now back to you.
Thank you, Callie. We will finish off this news segment with a weather forecast. Rain, what can you tell us to expect?
Well, tomorrow may be sunny and warm with a slight breeze. Or, it could be cloudy and cool. There's a possible chance of thundershowers or even snow. We do have a low-pressure system moving in, and when that happens, there's no telling what will follow. In short, it's going to be unpredictable, so dress appropriately.
Thanks, Rain, for the update. We now wish you a good night, and thanks for watching Channel 12 News.
Good night.
We have a special treat for you today. For this video, we will show you some tips and tricks on how we created this albino Tyrannosaurus Rex. Our fourth video was also a T-Rex mock, but it left much to be desired, as you can clearly see. This Rex, however, is a new and improved version. So let's dive in. First, let's look at some of the special pieces that it took to build this mock. This is a special Lego brick with side studs. These bricks were vital to creating the body of the T-Rex. At this point in the build, we shaped the body by connecting sloped and curved pieces to these special gray Legos. Next, we will highlight how we used these hinged pieces to create the Rex neck. First, we connected the head to the neck and the neck to the body using these two pieces. But that wouldn't be enough. Due to the weight of the head, we needed more support. That is where these hinge plates came in. Then, just as with the Rex body, we added wedge plates and sloped pieces to shape the neck and make it flush with the head and body. Next, we will focus on the eyes of a Rex. We started off with this special gray piece, and then added these hinges. Then, we connected a door rail plate on each side to keep the hinges from closing completely. Then we added the eyes. This design will keep the hinges locked in place and give us the angle we need for the Rex's eyes. Once this section was complete, we connected it to the rest of the head. Finally, we will look at the support beams used to bear the weight of the Rex. The legs are posable and cannot bear the full weight of the dinosaur. Thus, the support beams were needed. And that concludes the albino T-Rex. But before you go, please make sure you subscribe, share, and like the video to help the channel grow. In this video, we are going to highlight a few tips and tricks that we use to create this Lego mock. Swamps, of course, have water, and the question is, How can we make water come to life in Lego? The answer lies beneath the transparent pieces. Earlier, we placed brown-colored bricks here, nougat-colored bricks here, and tan bricks here. Then we laid the transparent green pieces on top. This technique will create the illusion of depth for the water. This is because darker Lego bricks make the water appear deeper, and vice versa. Besides water, a swamp needs its trees, specifically mangrove trees. We use these arched pieces to create the mangrove roots. And throughout the trees, we also placed bricks with side studs to connect additional brick patterns to give the tree more texture. We finally wrapped the tree trunks with flex tubes to add more detail. Then we added hanging moss to the tree leaves to create the swampy look. We will now show you how we created the dragonflies. It only took 6 pieces. We started with a 1x1 brick with side studs and attached a stud piece with a hole in the center. Then, we inserted a stick. Next we took the base of a lever and attached it on top of a 1x1 brick for the eyes. Then we inserted the feather quills to make the wings. Lastly, we placed the dragonfly on a clear piece to give it the illusion of it being in flight. And that is all for our swamp mock. This is the Weston family funeral home. By 3 Weston generations, the home was owned and was now in the care of Charlie Weston, who was great at his job, no question. However, Bert and Jacob, his funeral assistants, tended to lack in basic competence. Though they did mean well, Jacob and Bert would often fail to follow the instructions of Mr. Weston. In fact, I have a couple I'll mention. One day, Bert and Jacob were preparing a service for the late Mrs. Burgess. When Mr. Weston came to inspect, he noticed an obvious defect. Mrs. Burgess was turned all around. "Good gracious," he said. "She's upside down." Sure enough, at the foot of the box was her head, and her feet were at the head of the casket bed. But they rearranged Mrs. Burgess in no time at all and positioned her in the funeral hall. Luckily, no one else learned of the mistake, and things proceeded normally during the wake. On another occasion, the Horner family made a request to have music play after the last address, while the pallbearers carried the casket away. So the family gave Jacob and Bert a CD to play. Several days later, when it was time for the vigil, the 2 assistants found themselves in a pickle. For just as the casket was about to be hauled away, the recorded music began to play.
Hello? Anybody out there? Come on, let me out. This isn't funny, let me out.
Only it wasn't music that came from the CD. It was the noise of knocking and someone yelling to be let free. Horrified, the audience gasped, thinking that someone was trapped. The widow fainted, thinking that her husband had not died, but was being buried alive. Soon everything was smoothed over, though the crowd was still sober. It turned out that Bert and Jacob made a mistake, but it was an easy one to make. Instead of using the Horner's CD, Jacob grabbed a recording he made for Halloween, which was going to be used for a wonderful joke, to make his co-workers think they were burying the wrong bloke. But the wildest one to ever occur happened for the funeral of Mr. Burr. His widow came early to inspect the setup. She loved everything but her husband's getup. "Oh dear, I'm afraid this just isn't quite right. My husband always wore a dark suit, nothing light. Would it be possible to change his clothes? If not, it's no big deal, I really don't want to impose." With only an hour left to spare, Bert took an impossible dare. "Yes, Mrs. Burr, we will change your husband's outfit, and just in time for the family's visit." Satisfied, the widow Burr left the scene, and Jacob shouted, "Why didn't you come clean? It takes more than an hour to dress the dead." Bert replied, "Not if you just switch out the head." Jacob then realized the plan and said, "We can switch heads with Mr. Van Daan." Mr. Van Daan was having his funeral in the chapel next door. So, the 2 workers wheeled Mr. Burr across the floor. In the next room, the workers removed each head with a pop and switched out the bodies for the swap. Now Mr. Burr was dressed in dark clothes and was positioned in his funeral pose, while Mr. Van Daan's clothing was light, but everything for him turned out all right. When the widow Burr returned, she was no longer concerned. "Thank you for accommodating an old lady. My husband looks good, and the flowers are so pretty." The services proceeded as smooth as could be, and no one ever knew about the unusual deed. And that's it for our story, but before you go, there is something you really ought to know. Though Bert and Jacob mess up a lot, they do put in a lot of thought to care for your loved one after they have expired, and give them the funeral that they desired. In a previous video you were shown the tree monster from the book and movie, A Monster Calls. In this video, you will see a time-lapse build of the monster. You may notice some minute differences between this mock and the original one, but the overall build is the same. Let's jump right into it. First, we started with the main body using the structure shown here, and added the pieces. Next we created the arms. But for the purposes of this video, and due to time constraints, only the left arm will be shown. The right arm is the same design, just mirrored. Then, we made the legs. Similarly to the arm, only the left leg will be demonstrated. The right leg is the same design, just flipped. For the head we created different sections, and then pieced them together like a puzzle. Lastly, we created the tree branches. For stability, we placed these pieces on the back of the monster. Then we built this structure to stabilize the archways as demonstrated here. and added more pieces for the branches. To add greater detail, we added vines. This concludes the tutorial for the tree monster. Thanks for watching.
Ian was traveling with his girlfriend, Madison, from Mount Olive, West Virginia to their homes in Rutland, Ohio. They had been visiting some old friends from high school for the day, but now it was late. Along the way, they would pass through the town of Point Pleasant, where the Mothman has roamed over the years. The drive would be long on the dark and lonely road. So, for entertainment, Ian asked Madison,
Have you heard of the Mothman?
Madison casually answered,
I've heard of it, but not much else.
We will soon drive through a town called Point Pleasant, where back in the 60s there were reports of people seeing a humanoid creature with wings.
He paused for dramatic effect.
The beast supposedly haunted Point Pleasant, terrorizing the citizens. In fact, there was an interesting case of two couples who were chased by the Mothman in their car as they sped away from the old TNT area.
What is the TNT area?
It was a place where TNT was manufactured for World War II.
Sounds like an interesting place.
Madison wasn't scared at all. So Ian pushed it further.
Well, anyways, the most unnerving thing about this monster were its red eyes. There are stories of people seeing these devilish eyes staring at them in the dark, animals disappearing mysteriously, and lone travelers being met by strange men.
Still not convinced, Madison said.
If you're going to try and scare me, you need to do a better job than that.
Ian took up the challenge.
Okay, I'm going to take you to the old TNT area.
Oh, really?
Why not? Let's explore for a few minutes and see what we can find.
Madison agreed just to humor him, though she didn't believe in the Mothman at all. In no time, Ian turned down Potter's Creek Road and pulled off on the shoulder.
Down there is the TNT dome.
He pointed to a pathway that led away from the road. Madison got out of the truck while Ian looked for two flashlights.
Okay, Ian, lead the way.
He led them through the darkness down the pathway, occasionally shining his flashlight into the trees. Finally, they reached their destination.
There's the entrance to the TNT dome.
Wow. This is amazing. I bet there is a rich history here.
Their conversation continued about the history of the site when a large snap came from some branches overhead. Ian immediately shined his flashlight into the trees nearby.
Quick, look over there.
Something in the tree moved just outside the beam of light. Only two red orbs could be seen perched in the tree. Ian walked just a little closer to get a better look when a strange sound emanated from the red orbs.
Ian! Get back here!
Madison could feel that something was wrong with the whole situation. Ian now felt it as well. He backtracked to Madison, but by doing so, he tripped and dropped his flashlight.
Ian!
Madison screamed. Ian jumped up and shined his flashlight back on the treetop, but the red orbs were gone. He turned all around, shining the light everywhere.
Come on, Ian, let's go!
Madison begged fervently. They ran back to their truck, not wanting to give in to panic. Yet Ian felt they were being watched. The hair on the back of his neck stood up on end as he turned around. Behind them was a humanoid creature with great wings, lunging towards them.
Run!
Ian shouted. He made sure Madison stayed in front, as he prayed nothing would happen to them. Once they got to the truck, Madison got in and slammed the door. Ian almost made it to his door when the creature screeched again, sitting in the treetop on the side of the road. He got into the truck, started the ignition, and floored it. They drove faster and faster. Madison kept looking behind them for the beast.
Do you see it?
No! I can't see it!
The creature then slammed into the roof of the truck. Madison screamed, and Ian swerved, but maintained control. Then out of nowhere, the windshield shattered as Ian slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop as the creature flew away. The Mothman let out another screech as it disappeared from view in the distance.
Are you okay?
Ian asked quietly. Madison was in shock.
I'm fine. Can we go home now?
Ian pressed the gas pedal with all of his might and drove off into the darkness. They both knew they encountered the Mothman, and they both knew that they had escaped with their lives. From that point on, Ian and Madison never traveled down Potter's Creek Road again for fear of encountering the Mothman.
out.